Hello again, I'm Deborah Jones, and this is Machine Embroidering with Knits. In this lesson, we're talking about activewear, and these knits can be very stretchy, and they're sometimes called technical knits, and I'm going to show you how to identify these. The biggest giveaway is perhaps in the name. For example, we have Sport Tech, which refers to a technical knit. Here we have Tech Gear. The other clue that you may be working with a technical knit is the amount of stretch. Technical knits are very stretchy, and they also have a dry wicking characteristic that wicks the moisture away from the body. So they could also have a name like dry fit. So just be aware that when you see these names, you know you're working with a knit that can be very thin and very stretchy. With this very lightweight knit, we want to use a size 70-10 or 75-11 light ballpoint needle. A light ballpoint needle spreads the fibers in the knit rather than piercing them, and that retains the structural integrity of the knit. Also, it's my recommendation to use a rayon thread because in my experience, when polyester threads are used on this fabric type, after drying in the dryer, the embroidery can curl on this very lightweight knit. Another challenge is in keeping your outlines on track. This type of knit can stretch very easily, which could create puckering, but it could also get your outlines off track. So we're going to talk about a special stabilizer that will help you keep that on track. Another thing that can help prevent pushing of the knit is your stitch direction. So let me show you a bit about how you can control that in working with your embroidery software. In this animation, even with proper underlay, this stitch direction pushes the fabric sideways. The opposite stitch direction pushes the fabric upward. A more gentle stitching angle combined with the proper underlay in the opposite direction helps minimize the push on the fabric. Sometimes controlling the stitching angle isn't enough to prevent pooching and pushing on the fabric. This digitizer placed a gentle angle in this direction on the white and a gentle angle in the opposite direction on the gray. And because the stabilizer didn't help enough control the pooching and pushing, we still have these areas that appear misshapen along the edges of the box. So this lightweight nylon no-show stabilizer, even though it was fused to the reverse side of this lightweight knit, still allowed the stitching to push too much on this technical fabric. There's a secret stabilizer that I'll share with you that will solve this problem entirely. And it's something you have right in your own home. It's a used bed linen. You could use an old sheet or an old pillowcase, and the great thing is that it's pre-washed, so there's no shrinkage. You could go to the fabric store and buy a nice cotton or cotton blend and pre-wash it to make sure that you have no shrinkage. You know, commercial embroiderers experienced a lot of problems with this fabric type and had to come up with a solution. So they can actually purchase a 100% polyester version of a woven stabilizer that has no shrinkage, and that's what they use when they're embroidering these technical knits. But we're able to utilize bed linens, and if you don't have a lot of these hanging around the house that you want to cut up, just go to a thrift store and purchase an old set of sheets, and you'll have loads of cutaway woven stabilizer to use on your technical knits. It really is the silver bullet for this type of fabric, and you're going to be able to get your outlines to hit the mark every time, and you won't see the puckering. And we are going to adhere it to the back of our garment, to the back side of our garment with a temporary spray adhesive. So let me show you how I would attach this to a garment. This isn't your father's baseball shirt. These are much stretchier, and this is what's being worn today. And you know, this stabilizer we're attaching, made from the pillowcase, is just as reliable as what the commercial embroiderers are purchasing. And we're simply going to spray our backing with a little mist of temporary spray adhesive and just finger press that into place in the embroidery area and hoop. And your embroidery is going to come out as smooth and pucker free with proper registration, meaning your outlines are going to be on track. So now I'll turn it right side out and we'll hoop our knit. I see that I have a little bit of a wrinkle, but that's okay. I'm going to smooth it out now because this is a temporary spray adhesive. So I can simply loosen it and press it down again and smooth those wrinkles right out. So that's one of the reasons why we try to get it nice and smooth from the reverse side, but with this very lightweight knit, that isn't always possible. So if you see any wrinkles when you come to the front, just smooth those right out before you begin hooping. So again, with this shirt that has no front opening, we're going to place the hoop inside with the hardware extending through the neck opening. It's very important to get this nice and flat and smooth, because we know this fabric already has a tendency to pucker, and so we don't want to give it any wiggle room. We want to make sure that the stabilizer is completely secure in the hoop. And this is one type of garment that will really make a difference on. So I'm going to, as always, insert the upper edge of the hoop. So we're going to smooth this in the direction of the least stretch, being the vertical direction, with the top edge of the hoop pressed against the outer ring, and then just press it in and let the hoop do the work of pulling the knit taut. Then we're going to recess slightly, meaning that we're pushing the inner ring slightly lower than the outer ring if your hoop type allows it. This is ready to go to the machine. So again, we're going to have to pull the back of the shirt away from the embroidery area, and we're going to be extra cautious loading this type of fabric into the machine, because if it gets snagged on a needle, it's much more visible than other types of knits. So we're going to place this in, and notice that a lot of these technical knits have sort of a shiny surface, and that is typical of these knits and another way to recognize them. If at any point during embroidery you detect puckering on the surface of the embroidery fabric, and you can't obviously rehoop at that point, but you may be able to stop the puckering by adding an additional layer of stabilizer. And the way that we do this is called floating the stabilizer beneath the hoop. So I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to cut the thread, and then I'm going to slide this light tearaway stabilizer beneath the hoop. This is a 1 ounce tearaway. This is the way that you should begin, one layer at a time. Restart the machine, and if it doesn't subside, Then float another layer of stabilizer beneath the fabric. You will be able to stop the puckering in almost every case by using the floating tearaway method. The reason we use a 1 ounce layer is because then you can remove them one layer at a time without stressing your stitches or your fabric, particularly on a lightweight knit like a technical fabric. So now we're ready to take the shirt out of the machine, and again we're going to be very careful to keep this delicate knit from snagging on the needle as we remove it. And I'm going to unhoop it, and our embroidery is flat and smooth without puckering, and our outlines are on track. So we're ready to play ball. I hope you'll share some of your knit embroidery successes on the Knits3 platform. I'd love to see them. Next, we'll be working with swimwear and dancewear, which can be particularly hard to hoop depending on how they'll be worn.